All right, welcome to why discipline is overrated and what actually works. Now, this is going to be to some people, a completely counterintuitive approach to self-improvement and to sticking to habits and to consistency in a way that doesn't require discipline. Because in the self-improvement space, you're just spoon-fed down this narrative, discipline, 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 right? And our man David Goggins is the figurehead of that. You might also say people like Jocko Willink, all of that, but it's ingrained into the hustle bro Bible. So in this video, we're gonna break down why discipline is not actually the answer, and why when you switch from the journey of forcing or pushing against life via enacting your willpower and discipline to a life where you're pulled by action, you're pulled by a vision, that actually changes the game, and discipline almost becomes irrelevant because your consistent action is tapped into a source that's greater than your conscious mind can muster the willpower. So this video actually got inspired by viewer Ethan. Thank you for the question and thank you for the subscription, my bro. Glad to have you on here. He asked, new viewer, can you explain how one can improve their life without discipline? I guess I'm saying I'm struggling to see the life path or philosophy that you're suggesting. I mean, again, we're fed in the self-improvement space, discipline, 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 right? So it's like, that's almost like all we know in order to make progress in life. But in this video, I really just want to open your mind to a different approach to things. And it's not that, I want to make clear that I have nothing against discipline. You need discipline. But it's become preached in a way that I would say is unhealthily overemphasized, and it's not actually the answer to most of the things that you want. So let's just get started, right? The argument for discipline is you need discipline to fix your life, right? If I don't use discipline, how will I ever get anything done? And I call this stage zero, right? Where you are living from a state of zero baseline discipline. This is when you're miserable. This is when your life is at its lowest, right? You're useless, you're lazy, you're going nowhere, you're procrastinating all the time, you have no purpose, you have anxiety, depression, no meaning. And so because you have these habits and you don't have any discipline to go anywhere, you make zero progress in life, right? So keep in mind when I talk about discipline within the context of this video, I'm referring to a dominantly punishment-based style of self-talk to force yourself to do things that are uncomfortable, as we will journey on to discover here. So we're making zero progress in life, right? We have no discipline, we have nothing to drive us forward. And somewhere along the way, we find self-improvement. We realize, I need some discipline in my life. And that's when we begin stage one of our self-improvement journey, let's say, because discipline is a crucial part of it. We realize discipline equals progress. Or as Jocko Willink would say, discipline equals freedom. Over and over and over again, right? So we start on the conventional self-help path. We start applying discipline to our lives, right? We start forming these habits like cold showers, 5 a.m. wake-ups, 10 km run every day, maybe not 10 km, maybe 1 km, right? We start going on these diets, right? No carbs, carnivore, no fruits, all of this crazy shit that's being preached. And it's like, I'm not arguing against them, right? To each their own, right? All of these, there's a reason why there's a vegan diet, there's a carnivore diet, there's a no fruit diet, there's a no carb diet on the diet market. It's because fundamentally, they're based on different philosophies of nutrition. And whatever one you pick to, just make sure that it's the one that's aligned to you. And of course, you would pick it because it's more aligned. But as you Don't close your mind off to other things, because you should be exploring different things and finding what actually feels the best to you. And you don't know until you actually experiment, right? Anyway, that was a sidetrack, but we start applying discipline to our lives, right? We form these habits, right? We start going to the gym every day. We start making progress on our lives, right? We start making progress, you know? And of course, we're going to come across setbacks along the way, right? Some days we're going to feel like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym today. But this is what discipline is for, right? We push, push, push. Doesn't matter how you feel. Do you want to be the best version of yourself you can be, or you want to be that lazy bum who does nothing with his life, right? So, okay, I don't want to be that lazy bum. Make more progress, right? But, you know, day by day, hour by hour, whatever thing, of course, more obstacles, right? More inner demons to overcome, right? Our past self wants to come back and sabotage us. You're going to let that? Huh? Or you're going to push through like a man? Right? Progress. Making progress. Making progress. So the cycle of progress and setbacks, but we ultimately push through until we hit a fucking wall. Now, this wall isn't just like any other wall that we've hit so far, where it's just like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym today. You're not going to go to the gym today? You're going to be a lazy piece of shit, right? That's just a small wall. But the big wall happens when you're so depleted of willpower because you've been draining it day by day that you run out of fuel, right? Willpower is a limited resource. And so at this point, you may or may not realize you're in this cycle, this loop, what I just simply call the discipline trap, where you're making progress, but then you hit a wall. And you can try to push through harder, and maybe you have a little bit of juice left in you. Maybe you can go one more workout, or one more week, or 3 more months. But eventually, this wall breaks you down because you are stripped of absolutely everything you have left in you, right? And where does this cycle come from? Because in an earlier stage of our self-improvement, I know this was the case for me. I'm not saying this is the case for you, but for some people, this will make sense. When I was on my early stage of self-improvement, I would say things like, right? I wouldn't say things, but I would subconsciously believe things that I didn't know I subconsciously believed, but this was my inner self-talk. Maybe not to this extreme of a degree, but the reason I write this extreme is to paint the picture, right? I'm so fucking worthless. Every second you're not productive, you're failing. One day off and you've already lost your momentum. Pathetic. You're never gonna make it being this soft. You haven't done enough today. You don't get to feel good. That run's not gonna run itself. You cheated on your diet today. You're such a lazy piece of shit. No one's coming to save you. Work harder. Get the fuck up, you lazy piece of shit. There's dudes out there working harder than you. You gonna be a little bitch today? They're gonna kill your family. You're just gonna sit there and let them? Fucking coward. Why can't you even hold down a simple routine? It's not even that hard, yet you can't even do it. So we're in this cycle where we try to motivate ourselves through this kind of self-talk. And it works for a while, right? It works for a while. Every time we hit a wall, we tell ourselves something negative, right? Something fucking unbearable that we cannot bear. And then we can flip it back into some more progress, right? And this cycle just repeats itself over and over and over again. And the beliefs we hold fundamentally are things like, I need to fix myself. My life's not good enough. I'm a loser. I'm not good enough unless I earn it. More discipline equals more success. I'm a worthless piece of shit. And so our behaviors start to reflect that, right? We become rigid. We become closed off. We feel shame and guilt whenever we fall off track. And we start beating ourselves up when we fall off track and punishing. It's almost like self-improvement is a way to punish ourselves. All of these routines and disciplines and cold showers and gym routines and meditation, was a way to discipline ourselves as to punish ourselves because we're so useless, because we're not the person we want to be, because we're so miserable, because we're so far away from the life that we want. Right? We consume this hustle porn motivation. Our identity becomes built on punishment, and we use self-criticism as primary motivator, and we call that discipline. But some of us will play this game and run the cycle long enough until we realize, I'm so fucking miserable in my life. And this whole self-improvement thing was supposed to make my life better. And sure, I've achieved more things. Maybe I can bench 135 and I started at 65 pounds, Maybe I can run 10 kilometers now and I started off at 1 kilometer. Maybe I had the courage to walk up to 5 girls and talk to them or something. When I was just so socially anxious that I couldn't talk to anybody. But the progress is almost like less of the point because of the fact that despite the achievements you made and the progress you made, you're unable to feel grateful for them. And that's fundamentally because you still feel miserable because of this kind of self-identity and this kind of belief that you hold, right? So it's like all the things that you say to yourself in this mental state, what if that was your father saying this to you, right? Do you believe that you deserve to be treated like this or treated like a decent human being? If you believe the latter, it's like, why do you talk to yourself like this, right? And again, I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm not saying that you're like this, but maybe you have some remnants of these beliefs. Because the dominant self-improvement paradigm, I don't know, do you call that red pill, right? This over-identification with gotta be masculine, gotta be a man, puts us into this self-shaming cycle. So we hit this big wall, right? We spin and spin around the wheel until one day we're completely fed up and it's like you've had enough of treating yourself like shit. You realize, like, why am I talking to myself like I'm such a piece of shit? What good does that actually do me? It's like, sure, okay, it motivates me, right? It disciplines me. It gets me to do shit I wouldn't otherwise want to do. But it's like, why don't you want to do it? Why can't you just become the person who wants to do it? And that's the whole premise of what we're going to dive into here. So we hit the plateau and everything goes downhill from here. Right? So when I was at the stage of the discipline trap cycle, right, I was always unhappy. I struggled to feel grateful. I always felt like I wasn't good enough because there's always more to achieve. Right? I closed myself off from other people because they're wasting my time. They're not conducive to my goals, and I was miserable because I hated myself and I hated my life. And that's why I use discipline to try to escape my life and escape my own thoughts. Which is completely ironic because I'm using these negative thoughts to try to escape these negative thoughts, which doesn't make sense in hindsight, right? But fundamentally, discipline, I used it as an attempt to escape from a life that I hated because I hated myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't like who I was. I wasn't proud of myself. I was trying to improve myself to the point where I could start feeling proud of myself. And again, I'm going to say, discipline at some point is a necessary foundation, but it's something that you should transcend along the way because you find something more powerful than relying on that. And that's what we're going to keep going into, right? So you hit the plateau. We're at a breaking point. You feel angry, resentment, burnout. You just feel like I can't keep living the way that I'm living through all of this exertion because every day just feels heavy. It's heavy. I don't actually feel inspired every day. Every day feels like a drag because I have to wake up early. I have to hit the cold shower. I have to whatever. But I don't enjoy it. And if you are not living a life that you enjoy on your way to pursuing your goals, to achieving them, then what difference is that from the rat race? What difference is that from the hamster wheel? So we burn out. right? Our body and our mind become so depleted psychologically and spiritually from all of this toxic bullshit we've been spewing to ourselves that we're fed up trying to listen to our tyrannical, discipline yelling ass, right? Our entire goal from the beginning was using discipline. Through discipline, our entire aim was to achieve, a relationship, achieve success, achieve our huge goals, whether they're fitness, career, whatever, right? But it's like, the flaw with discipline is that you're pushed by emotions of fear, shame, anger, and guilt. And these are not emotions you want to live inside. Trust me. Right? And again, I've said this earlier, you need discipline because it's a powerful tool, but not in the overbearing, toxic way that's being portrayed and overemphasized by the mainstream self-improvement space. So my goal is basically everything that's overemphasized, I will take the opposite side and bring you back to a more balanced view of things. It is said that no tree can grow to heaven without its roots reaching down to hell. So it's almost like you learn a lot about yourself through going through this process to hell, because you realize like the darkest parts of you, the hungriest part of you, and you need that. But at some point, it's time to move on and to grow into something bigger. Let me see if I missed something. Okay, I don't think I did. Right, again, said this multiple times now, but the themes of that cycle: punishment, anger, you're like a tyrant to yourself, you're a dictator to yourself, right? And who wants to be ruled by a dictator? And that is the core issue, right? When you operate willpower in a way that's dictator-like, that's the reason you can't sustain it. And that's all I'm speaking to, right? So as much as I harped on discipline, it is inherently an identity/mindset problem. The relationship you have with yourself and the thoughts you have and you repeat, right? Not so much a problem with discipline, right? Discipline is just a tool, right? The entire theme of my relationship with discipline was that I used it in an attempt to escape a life that I actually hated. And then I eventually found out that that was actually not the answer. And so a lot of guys who start in the self-improvement space, because they hate themselves, they don't like their lives, right? They're worthless, they're nothing, they haven't achieved what they want, right? Of course you think that when you see everyone you see who's successful on social media. So they try to use discipline to outrun their own lives. Now, this, I think this is, Mike Tyson.
I had the best 3 years of my life in prison. Wow. Yeah. That's interesting for you to say that, bro, because you had millions. I had peace, though. Over the $30 million for one fight? Jay-Z's lying. Hey, listen, can I tell you something? That don't mean nothing when you don't have your peace. That's the building in your balance. You live for real in one, you want to give it to somebody else. You need your sanity to dictate any part of life. Because, God, I always tell people, God punishes you by giving you everything you want. See if you can handle it. I had the best.
This is Mike Tyson, right? The scariest motherfucker on earth saying this kind of shit, you know what I mean? It's like, the attainments and the achievements, the fame, the success, the money, the woman, whatever, that we put on such a high pedestal, many people, not many, some people, but Mike Tyson is one of them, to discover that all of that is meaningless when you don't have the internal peace and the right psychological state to enjoy your life. Because when you're living in a turmoiled, angry, resentful, like, place inside, that is hell. No matter how good you might look to others on the outside. So part of the toxic mindset is thinking one day you can achieve these big goals and then one day you can be happy. Okay, I'm pretty sure I wrote about this later, so we're going to keep heading down, but if this part doesn't connect fully, hopefully it will as we keep going, right? So we are all using the effort of disciplining ourselves to create a better life. That's what we all want. But the problem is that we're not actually looking forward to our day, right? Because you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough. I can only be happy once I achieve X, Y, Z. And our self-worth is dependent on our productivity. You know, if we fail at something, we miss a task, whatever, we relapse or whatever, we beat ourselves up, right? So again, that cycle over and over again. It's a self-fulfilling cycle of negativity. The entire reason you need discipline is because you've created an entire life that's not enjoyable to you, right? Waking up early feels like punishment. Your diet is a punishment. Going to the gym is a punishment. Running is a punishment. Everything feels like a punishment, right? Your days are spent doing shit that feels like punishment in order to finally attain some imaginary far-off future where you can finally claim this reward because you justified it with enough suffering, enough hard work, enough pain. But you need to get off this cycle. Hopefully I've illustrated by now why you need to get off this cycle, right? So that is the discipline thing. So now we're going to shift into a new timeline. There's two paths, right? This is your life built on discipline. Shaky, sand. This is the punishment-based life, which requires entirely on discipline to run, right? Waking up early, oh shit, I just said all that earlier. But again, right? We're reliant on negative reinforcement to keep this life alive, but it drains our limited reserves, our willpower. And once that willpower runs entirely dry, we burn out. And that's the cycle we talked about earlier. On the other hand, when your life is built on alignment to an authentic purpose, you have a solid foundation, right? This is the effortless life. Waking up early actually feels good. Your diet is effortless, Going to the gym is a lifestyle, right? Running is what you do. Everything feels like a reward because the life you're living is actually who you are. And so this model uses positive reinforcement to skyrocket your momentum in life to previously unseen levels to which you're doing even more than you were when you were relying on willpower, using less effort, right? So what is a lifestyle? A lifestyle is a set of habits, beliefs, and behaviors that you live by on a day-to-day basis, right? When you create a reality where your habits are rewarding, your beliefs are rewarding, your behaviors are rewarding, then you effectively create a lifestyle that is already the reward, right? So let's summarize this comparison really quick here before we finish off the video here. But this is an analogy of the entire picture, right? Living an unaligned life to the person you actually want to be is like equals you're forced to force habits through abuse and overdependency on your willpower, right? This is a mistake because it's unsustainable, it's inauthentic, and that's the key here, it's inauthentic, and it's not enjoyable. Right? You're building habits on quicksand and using willpower to constantly try to repair the sinking mess. Because that's how it feels when you're operating that way. On the other hand, designing a lifestyle centered around the actual life you want to create equals alignment, effortlessness, enjoyable, sustainable, and infinite leverage. Because you're building it on rock solid foundation, which is authenticity. So what we're really talking about is lifestyle design. The first one lacks it because it lacks like a true holistic vision of what you want out of your life and creating your life around that, where it's just about, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and do that, right? Life is just a draining set of tasks. Whereas on the other hand, this is about, okay, I have a plot of land, I have a solid foundation. What the hell do I want to build? Right? And you spend every day working at it. And you're inspired and excited to wake up and to work on it because you're building exactly what you want. Right? So, coming back here, we're effectively creating a lifestyle that is already the reward. We're not waiting for some imaginary future to justify, oh, we can finally claim it, you know. We're no longer waiting for permission from the world, right? Whether that's through entering a relationship, through a salary raise, through graduating with a degree, right? Through achieving some huge financial milestone, through attaining your perfect physique and 8% body fat. You're no longer waiting for permission to be happy because you start owning your happiness from the inside out, from the things you do each and every day, right? People say, oh, I use meditation to be happier, but they don't realize that your life could be a 24/7 meditation if you designed it intentionally and properly, right? If you were fully intentional with the life you wanted to lead and the intention you place behind your actions every single waking day, then your life could be a 24/7 meditation. Right? In other words, you are in love with your life and process, and everything you do is in alignment with the person and life you want to lead. You would not rather be anyone else or anywhere else. Right? It's a reversed engineer approach to life because most people think, how can I attain X goal? Right? Okay, I have to hit the gym 5 times a week. I have to wake up at 6 a.m. every day. I'm doing all of this so I can hit the goal of getting a six-pack and being shredded. But goal focus is self-demotivating because it is constantly consuming the gasoline of willpower. Right? When the rate of your willpower exerted is consumed faster than the rate of replenishment, you will run out of fuel and burn out. And so when you're on a lifestyle or process-focused frame of mind, this is self-sustaining and infinitely leverageable because, again, solid foundation to build on top of. Infinitely leverageable to build momentum because you're focused instead on who do I have to become, right? The entirety of our thinking now becomes, who do I want to become? Not who should I become? but who do I want to become? I want. What do I want? Right? Not what other people want from me. That's where the should comes. What do I want? Right? And so I'll just give you straight example from my life. I don't lift at the gym to build muscles. I do it because it feels fucking amazing. I do it because it feels so good taking care of myself properly. I do it because it feels disrespectful to myself if I don't. I do it because it's like upgrading my engine from a Toyota to a Ferrari, from a 4-cylinder to a V12. Or you could say, I want to upgrade my engine to a Toyota because it's the most reliable engine in the world. It's like, whatever, have your pick, right? I don't do cardio 30 minutes a day to just lose weight. I do it because it's part of my complete fitness and nutrition system that not only empties out my body of any excess calories I might consume that day, but also because it gets me out of my thinking mind and into the visceral, alive feeling inside of my body that I get when I move. Right? That's why physical activity is one of the best forms of therapy. Doing the cardio is a part of my day that helps me remember who I am, that I'm alive, and that my body is capable of unimaginable capability. Right? I don't work on my business because I want to be making $50,000 a month. I do it because it's the only goddamn thing I think about and care about. And that's to elevate the human potential and experience and share how we can create happier, more fulfilling, high performance lives without any of the bullshit, unnecessary stress we've been conditioned to take on, right? So these are 3 examples directly from my own life, and you see how the process becomes the reward, the lifestyle becomes the reward when you're living the life you actually want to live. You're automatically winning, right? The goals, the achievements that come from said lifestyle are just the natural byproducts. They're the bonuses, the cherries on top, right? But you're never relying on the attainment of these goals. If you were single and looking for a relationship and you wanted to repel the person or the goal, in our context, in question as effectively as possible, what's the single best thing or worst thing you could do? You would chase them, you'd find out where they live, where they go to school, where they work. You'd follow them around, follow them home, find their number, text and call them constantly, asking for them to be with you. Right? If you actually worked on yourself, you develop self-respect, self-esteem, you would exude this aura of confidence that just comes from your authenticity and from your self-assurance. You would light up an entire room as soon as you walked in without trying to be anything or look a certain way to other people, right? How could she not notice you in this context? That's the reason it's called attraction and not chasing. So be the person that attracts opportunities and the achievement of goals, just as you would to attract a partner in the above scenario. It comes from the way you carry yourself. And that comes from the way you carry your life, right? In your day-to-day life, it's like, how are you living? Are you carrying shame, worry, regret, anger, fear? Or have you transcended them and realized that the only way to live your dream life is to create it, not in the future, but in your day-to-day, and build it into your life as if you're already living it and you will be living it. So Bruce Lee here, the picture of the wave here, it's like, well, what is this connection, right? The effortless life, right? The Tao, right? Bruce Lee was he understood Taoist principles of effortless action, yin and yang, all of these principles of harmony and integration. He was a very integrated man, controlled, fluid, when you watch him move, it's like water, you know? It's like, be like water, my friend, right? So do you see the connection between this kind of fluid, spontaneous, effortless lifestyle to this life philosophy that we've just explained? So earlier we we'll leave off with this. This should be the end of it, okay. Right? This is living a miserable life, chasing money. When you're chasing your goals, when you're living a miserable life chasing your goals, whether that be money, women, whatever the hell it is, right? This is you. We make the mistake of thinking the rat race is just chasing a salary raise in a corporate job, right? But that's actually not true, because the rat race, the hamster wheel, is actually a state of mind. And it has to do with the relationship you have to your goals. Because when you live your life doing something you don't enjoy, that you hate, in order to attain some future goal, then you're on the hamster wheel, right? The hamster wheel happens anytime you're doing something you hate, don't enjoy, in order to attain some kind of goal you want. But what is the point if you hate the process along the entire way? How is that different from the way you live your life from the corporate rat race if you're not living one that you're actually enjoying on the process to attaining your goals? The trick is to fall in love with what you do so that you can come to the attainment of the goal effortlessly, because it's about who you are. Who are you being? If I lived every day like this, you know, where my beliefs, habits, behaviors are rewarding, I go to the gym every day, you know, I work on my business, I you know, go outside, I run. It's like, I'm not doing this from a place of like, I have to do it. I do it because I love it. And it's like, well, if I just followed what I love because I love it, then 3 years down the line, what can I achieve? And all the goals are just the byproduct. So we're going to end off with Elon Musk. What does Elon Musk have that relates to the entirety of this video? It's that he never woke up and was just like, oh, how do I become the world's most richest man? Maybe like, you know, oh, I'll start an electric car company and I'll build reusable rockets. That'll make me the richest man. It's like, no. This guy, it's like, where do you think the Cybertruck was inspired? Right? From a fucking video game. Where do you think these brain chips and shit were inspired? Like, clearly, this guy read a shit ton of sci-fi books when he was a little kid. He's a fucking nerd. And how did he become the world's most successful billionaire? Because he leaned into his nerd. Right? He built his career off of his love of sci-fi. Think about it. Right? Whether it's Mars, electric cars, these futuristic cars, brain chips. This dude is a nerd at heart, and he had the courage to follow his authentic passion as a nerd. So my message to you is to unleash your inner nerd, because that's how you get everything you want. When you're obsessed with what's crazy to other people, like, think about what he's built over the past 10 years, 20 years. 20 years ago, he's a lunatic, he's a nobody. But look where we are now. And that's all because he was never afraid to be this and to fully embrace it. So that is our video. I hope this opened your mind to a different way of life. And frankly, I think this is a whole new space to explore. And, I have so much more shit that's coming out. I mean, not only limited to just discipline, right? But discipline is only like one aspect. But just breaking down paradigms of conditioning and replacing them with something that is actually true for you and causes you to take action in a way that inspires you to wake up every day. I mean, I think that's the goal, right? Would you disagree with me? Yeah, this is a longer video, but we're gonna leave it off there. And maybe one last note is you just need to wake up every day to a life that actually inspires you. Now this is, I could make 50 videos on this because it's because it's easy to start asking, it's like, well, how do I actually wake up to a life that actually inspires me? Right? And that's a whole nother discussion. That'll take this video to 3 hours long if we really want to dive into it. But let me know what you thought. Your thought. Let me know your thoughts on everything I just presented. Leave them down in the comments. Let me know if you want to see something like this, or more specifically, something specific that you're wondering, and I'll probably make something on it. So yeah, have a lovely morning, afternoon, night, and had a lot of fun making this video. Peace out. Like and subscribe to the channel. So many more bangers coming. Let's go.